the skull with the plaster clinging to it. And now the skull bones and the teeth, both remarkably well preserved. Two people just as they were at the moment they died.
Un uomo e una donna.
A man and a woman. Perhaps husband and wife, who knows? May have found death like this together.
Why aren't you married? Why can't you get married?
It's the sort of thing a man doesn't discuss with a nice woman.
Oh, Linus. What is it?
These two essays highlight the materiality of celluloid and videotape. With stolen clips, their filmmakers stage conversations with the material of the image as much as the image itself. Morrison does this by letting celluloid speak, while Rappaport often speaks back to the video.
In the 50s and 60s, no one was paying attention, but I was.
Need a light, cowboy?
Both movies are built around the presence of these images and the history of their decay rather than any particular argument. But what was Journey to Italy doing here? Rossellini's movie tells a story of a couple on the verge of leaving each other. They travel to an uncle's house they're selling, see friends, separate, reunite. At some point, I realized that this movie was as much of an essay about material as the other two, only Rossellini smuggled it into the fiction. Ingrid Bergman's character Catherine makes pilgrimages to ruins a dead lover wrote about in his poems: the Naples Museum, the Cave of the Sibyl, the Phlegraean Fields, the Fontenelle Cemetery, and Pompeii.
It's on this spot that they found a hollow space. When the men find hollow ground, they make a number of holes, and through these they pour plaster. The plaster fills out the hollow space left in the ground by the body, which has disintegrated.
She's trying to have a conversation with someone she lost, someone absent through the presence of history. Confronted by ruins, she tells herself a story of nostalgia, a desire for something that never existed.
Troy, Aeneas landed here on this very beach. In the last war, the British troops landed here.
Really? British troops landed here?
This explains why my
That's all these
performance
movies
is a
are
comfortable
doing.
Mixture of parental pride and barely concealed lust.
You're strong, too.
That's all I'm doing. I think I recognize something in Bergman's look. It's the look I have when I'm watching a movie, starting a conversation with some object. It's the reason I take screenshots and log viewings in an archive. There's something I want to preserve, a beauty maybe. Laura Mulvey wondered if digital technology would return textual analysis to its origins as a work of cinephilia, of love of the cinema. But what does this love consist of? What do my screenshots and photos and files mean in our culture of newness and the endless archive? In these private conversations I've stumbled into, there's only beauty in decay. It's a beauty of something absent, a missing person, a past experience, a decaying thing. The imperfections of time are present in the material and invite me to look away instead of holding my gaze. What kind of love and trust is there in letting something ruin? Earlier in the movie, after the museum, she says,
To think that those men lived thousands of years ago, and you feel they're just like the men of today. It's amazing. It is as if Nero or Caracalla, Caesar or Tiberius would suddenly tell you what they felt, and you could understand exactly what they were like.
Then they're not ascetic figures.
No, not at all.
with movies, as with sculpture, the creators are usually missing, that old shadow on the screen. The art, instead, is present and can seem like it's letting the people suddenly say what they felt. I want to believe I can understand them. But with these movies, I can never forget the material of the media. The image is always living and dead, but here the material is living too. The stones, the video, and the celluloid. It's as present as the people on screen. To let it speak is a different kind of pleasure, of escaping the self, of seeing time passing. Despite their absence, the creators still speak. Susan Stewart writes, "The reader speaks only to the absent writer, the writer speaks only to the absent reader." The index is always a literal inscription of the figure's living movements. Like all images of people, these offer a presence, a way to have conversations with friends or strangers. This is so often why I watch movies. Rappaport's conversation with Rock Hudson turns around the desire for his homosexuality to have been present on screen.
Doctor?
What verb is his body language conjugating?
Your new one, huh? How are things back home? Changed much? Depends on how long you've been away. You like Beethoven, Doc? Take it or leave it? Well, you better take it.
Uh-oh. Think fast, Rock. Don't fumble this pass.
By the way, my name's Drager.
What's yours?
Conversations now are always hurried. Streaming sites set expiration dates or shut down. Movies appear on YouTube for a handful of days before disappearing. Decasia was uploaded recently. Rock Hudson's home movies was taken down while I was recording this. The material I meet online is unstable and hides its materiality. In this rush to see, cinephilia is about collecting and downloading rather than speaking with. Is this hurried collecting the same thing as love? In order to hold a conversation, I have to steal or cite, make a copy or quotation. A screenshot or clip becomes a souvenir, something to hold on to in case the movie disappears. The souvenir authenticates the experience of the viewer. That experience is absent because it's in the past. Every movie disappears, in the double sense that it ends and it decays. The souvenir stands as a symbol of that missing experience, moving history into private time. It's a narrative of the possessor. The stolen clip tells me more about the person that copied it than the movie itself. What did Morrison find in these images? I can tell you that this girl looking back at the camera haunted me. Unlike Rappaport, who tells an explicit story of nostalgia, Morrison's conversation is unclear. Rappaport has said, in the context of making home movies, VCRs were designed, if not by intent, certainly by default, to take the burdens off family members and loved ones and distract one from the seeming hopelessness of one's own ailment. Even with the absence of its creators and an original experience, the copy offers me a presence. The tricky thing about movies now on videotape, DVD, or as media files is that they're both souvenirs and original experiences. As copies, they confer an absent original authenticity. As experiences, they disappear. They're souvenirs of themselves. And like the screenshot, the souvenir can so easily become only private, another image in my roll of images, a stand-in for my presence online. But the souvenir can also age as a resonating material with its own history. On the walls of my office are postcards from Porco Rosso and Chungking Express, beside a print by Keith Harder. Kate has more Ghibli postcards and a poster of BTS. Gemma has a poster of Hiroshima Mon Amour and the Birds. Yuning has a poster of Edward Yang's A Confucian Confusion. If we let the souvenir decay, then the movie will one day be totally absent. Rather than fill me with dread, these movies show me a beauty in that idea. The artist is always absent, the experience is always missing, why not let the object slowly fade too? We usually think of beauty as something to hold on to, each look wants to preserve. Here is an image that has been preserved. Here is an image that is not. The danger with this definition of beauty is that it often gets reversed. What is preserved must be beautiful, what is not preserved is ugly. But could you call Rappaport's movie ugly?
The sad thing about films, though, is you can trace the decline of beauty and the process of aging in the course of a handful of films. Just a few years later, Hall's innocence looks shop-worn and coarsened. It was just 5 years. Hollywood can do that to you. The ace bandage on his head didn't help. The same was true of me, I suppose. I never understood how this could turn into this.
What's important to remember is that each look decays, each projection, each rewinding, each opening wears material down. In that sense, not looking preserves more than looking. No matter how long beautiful things endure, they cannot out-endure our longing for them. I look away because I know the thing must age. I look away to allow it to ruin, to accumulate imperfections of time which are the marks of beauty. Decay resists the private time of the souvenir because it acknowledges the object has an experience besides its possessor. My conversation with the thing is only ever with multiple absences, missing people, missing experiences, missing objects. Bergman looks away because suddenly absence is erased. The plaster denies history, asserts a false presence. Morrison and Rappaport are constantly looking away, letting images end with a cut. Beauty only as preservation falls into the dominance of the new. The new is always clear, always outdating itself. The contemporary hierarchy of images, however, is not only based on sharpness, but also and primarily on resolution. This hierarchy of resolution means history is lost in favor of a supposedly universal clarity, an easy individuality. The image cannot age, the souvenir must always be assimilated, and watching must be done in a hurry. Always the new, and the new is always clear, preserved, and so beautiful. Somewhere in this hurry is an important search for new cinemas and old images. But these histories are perverted by a sense of, if only I watch the right thing. But how would I know this right thing when I see it? How would I find time to love it? Some days I want to say no more images.
Et sur la mer aussi. Le film restera ainsi, comme il est. Je n'ai plus d'image à lui donner.
Maybe this isn't such a bad idea. Jennifer Fay writes, "The melancholy of the Anthropocene is not human extinction or frailty in the face of inclement weather, rising tides, or even atomic war, but the impossibility of eliminating the human and its residuum from the planet." What a nightmare it would be if every souvenir never aged, if each thing was not allowed to ruin but instead pretended it was not a copy, not a presence masking multiple absences. And here I am, making more images. But it's not the images at fault, so I have to bring them back. Looking away first means looking. These movies foreground looking away and the historical distance between their makers and their objects. Bergman doesn't only look away at the end of Journey to Italy. Each thing she meets makes her turn slightly more until she finally turns away completely. Rappaport foregrounds his nostalgia in Eric Farr, playing Rock Hudson, talking to Rock Hudson. And in Decasia, there seems to be a simple irony that Morrison ends up preserving the things in decay, but he's only preserving a souvenir. The films themselves continue to ruin somewhere else. Morrison and Rappaport, as much as Rossellini, know that their conversation is with an absent desire.
I would be young and beautiful forever, frozen by a machine that captures the soul, as well as your youth.
A nostalgia that makes up the object's answer. They take their time. All three movies have forms without climax, a restless, horizontal gaze. They let me look away. This look demands trust and love. Trust that the image will come back changed by time, and love for its ruin.